When it comes to the VA, you can write the chief of staff all you want to, but the loop feeds right back to the foxes who guard the hen house. Now, folks, when President Trump signed an executive order establishing VA whistleblower protections and an Office of Accountability, most of us had high hopes. It appears that our enthusiasm should have been curbed. Congressional hearings conducted and continued yesterday as VA whistleblowers continued to inform lawmakers that nothing has changed. In point of fact, the VA has its own press and propaganda machine and issues these reports when they are on fire because of ongoing litigation like we have here. There's nothing new here. And this video will show some of the financial interests held by the federal judge in the ADA lawsuit that tie her to substantial VA contractors. The 1% run the VA, and we encourage reporters like Donovan Slack to follow and air this story, this one right here. Now, as a former daily news reporter and editor of a statewide weekly, I think I know a good news story when I see one, and you will too. Good evening, folks. Let's go back to the ongoing ADA whistleblower lawsuit at the VA, and we find three major developments. I'll tell you all about them. Sue Bozgoz is the plaintiff in this case, in the federal case, and he is a former JAG attorney and program analyst with no disciplinary record until he complained to Voncelle James about not being able to work overtime on Martin Luther King holiday as a white man when other black employees were allowed to and encouraged to do so. The next thing you know, he was facing all manner of work performance issues and a self-imposed resignation to preserve his health, as he had a stroke. His brother died of a stroke. Okay? So take a look at this. Now, Mr. Bozgoz is married to a black woman who is his ADA agent and representative, but nobody seems to care about that, least of all the federal court, who just hid his request for reasonable accommodations in the PACER login. But there it is right there. Look at it. All right? And all there is in response is a stingy, cryptic denial of same. That's not right at all. More on this later. They violated the 1973 Rehab Act by not honoring his reasonable accommodations request that Sue Bozgoz begged for so that they could abide, by the board certified doctor's orders so he wouldn't end up dead like his brother, because the family knows of his condition, and the brother had a similar condition, and he suffered a stroke and died in February of this year, okay? Anyway, the VA denied it, forced him back to work against the board certified doctor's orders, and then he suffered a stroke too, okay, right before his, brother died. So anyway, they forced him back to work, and they forced him to report to Voncelle James. Now, when he was evac to the hospital, Ms. Bozgoz requested emergency leave, something that everybody should get, and they said no. She requested an OSHA investigation, and they said no again, because it would generate a workers' compensation claim, which needed to be reported to Congress as a safety issue. That's what's going on, okay? So instead of helping him, Voncelle James went into his personal records and denied all benefits and pay. He lost his memory, and the right side of his face was, disfigured. So she dropped everything to take care of him, and he's just now getting back to order, okay? I think it was the 2nd of April, the VA requested that he come back to work against the board orders again. His doctor said if you go back against their certified orders, you might end up like your brother. Pepper, quiet. So now Voncelle James is telling everyone that he was a bad employee and he was about to be fired, so he quit instead.
Yes. Do an assignment. Could you please get out my face, sir?
You on my block.
Already been served.
So?
You on my block.
Come on, let's go. Come on, let's go.
Listen to your wife, bro. Thank you. Hi.
You on my block.
These people have harassed us.
That's it.
Yes, Miss.
He has resigned in lieu of being fired from the VA for his treatment of employees.
This is disgusting conduct in the worst way. So then, he filed the federal RICO lawsuit on the ADA and other violations. Let's talk about three developments now. 1. The service of process and bogus criminal complaints. 2. HIPAA violations. And 3. The federal judge recusal. 1. First of all, there seems to be a conspiracy to try to prevent service of process against certain defendants in this case, including, of course, Voncelle James. The good news is that the state nol-prossed the clearly bogus criminal cases against the Bozgoz family because there was clearly no evidence against them in the first place. The bad news is that Judge Zuberri Williams, on the state claims, on the criminal claims, once again refuses to issue any findings of fact and conclusions of law relative to the pack of lies told by Voncelle Williams, over which he presided. He has a duty to the court to maintain its integrity, and that would include taking action against Voncelle James for her clearly perjurious statements, such as Ms. Bozgoz was present during service of process, or that their server Lance entered her driveway, etc., etc. But he fails on that count resolutely, and he has watched one of my videos in open court. It's on the record, so he knows the deal, all right?
Also, there's attorneys that he could serve the paperwork with, because I work for the Department of Veterans Affairs. The only reason he was there was because he was trying to harass
Christopher Wunsch. He lied and failed to administer the ADA too. So now he sends out his aggressive dogs on a process server. Take a look at this, all right? And then their process server actually told them to leave him alone because he has cancer treatments, I believe it is. But he never told them about this, nor did he make arrangements for coverage. Frankly, I am not understanding Mr. Wunsch's lawless conduct, nor do I understand why the process server didn't just leave the docs on his feet and call it a day. That's good service. This is why, as an ADA intermediary, I told the VA's lawyers to just quit the nonsense and accept service on behalf of the remaining defendants. Same as I told the Bozgoz family to allow for the defendants extension of time in which to answer their upcoming second amended complaint. Let's move on with the litigation. Unbelievable but true. More on this in the next movie. If they had been successful in the criminal charges against the Bozgoz family, they would have wound up like Jamie and all the others, as noted in the NPR story I published in the last video. 2. Next, we come to the fact that Voncelle James violated HIPAA by using a name not her own to disseminate protected information about Mr. Bozgoz without any authorization whatsoever. Cindy Boyd was that name. When contacted, Cindy Boyd says she has no involvement in this fiasco whatsoever. But now she's gone silent for fear of retribution, but it's too late, baby, now. It's too late, okay? She spoke her mind freely in the email you see right there, and it speaks volumes. Okay, so yet more trouble for the VA and Miss James than any of the court officers who are trying to protect this nonsense, okay? Third, we arrive at Judge Amy Berman Jackson and the federal court failing to note how the Bozgozes requested reasonable accommodations owing to a documented history of PTSD. Had the court granted it as it should have, this case would have been expedited and service would have been easier as well, okay? But that's not what happened, all right? Then there's the court's denial on the motion to recuse, which is dealt with in nothing more than a minute note seen here, all right? Try to make it all go away. Now, I know about recusing a federal judge. I made a judge recuse herself for not divulging the fact that she used to work for my opposing counsel and alongside Kelly Ayotte, a one-term neocon U.S. senator, all right? They lied about all that in front of me, and I caught them. But the damage was done, so they just stayed with the rule of the case, and that was that. But, they blocked me from coming to her publicly advertised campaign events, when I interviewed Joe Arpaio, and they didn't like that.
Were you aware that they tried a similar initiative here in the Monadnock Valley about 5 years ago? They tried to criminalize being an undocumented worker at that time, and they made it into trespassing. Were you aware of that failed initiative 5 years ago?
No, I'm not aware of it, but they may have been ahead of the game. But by the way, have they been successful?
No, that failed. Also, do you honestly think that undocumented workers are the cause of our economic woes in this country? And there's plenty of M1 and M2 going around in the world. I mean, is it, really lay on them?
I don't call them undocumented workers. I call them illegal aliens.
Say, Kelly, how is this any different from the Monadnock initiative 5 years ago that was thrown out? Do you remember that, Kelly? I guess you don't recall, you just don't want to speak about it. But you do remember though, right? No, I wouldn't. In fact, and I don't have to either.
Really?
Yes, really. What's your name?
It's none of your business.
Well, it is to ask. You don't have to tell me.
Sorry.
See, that's how it works. You'll get to learn. Don't touch me. Don't touch me.
I'm not touching you.
Don't touch my equipment. That's an extension of me.
Leave my
Don't touch
area.
me, officer.
Leave my
They cannot touch me.
area.
Okay? I'm a member of the press. Yes, I do.
Take a look at that.
Yes, I'm a member of NEMPA. Been a member for a year and a half now, sir. Okay? So I don't have to go anywhere.
And so that's what happened. They blocked me from that. Anyway, gosh. Back to this case. Then there's more of the court's previously mentioned refusal to allow the plaintiff to have the ECF electronic filing, when that's been the preferred method to file for nearly 2 decades now in federal court, thereby making filings much more difficult on him. Instead of being able to push a button from his laptop, he's got a paper file now. Why would she do that? Okay? And then there's the fact that she's connected with financial ties to companies that do heavy contracting with the VA. Take a look here, okay? It's just overwhelming what is going on, and I have to call it, because when I became a lawyer in the first place, I was a bright-eyed, bushy-tailed assistant attorney general. I believed in the law. I believed in the government. I no longer believe in any of it because of cases like this.